We have done our preseason preview pods. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show. Jam and I, we're going to hit you with the players who we think are the best at specific skills within the 2025-2026 draft cycle. You're not going to want to miss this one. Hang tight. We'll be right back here in a second. Let's rock. What's up, y'all? We are live here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, here talking about the players who we think are the best at a specific skill within this draft class. I'm Stephen Gillaspie. I didn't open up the way that we normally do. I didn't even get to ask Jam how we're feeling. Jam, you're joining us here, man. We are minutes away from your 49ers kicking off. We know that the Rams won bright and early against Jacksonville. Matt Stafford threw for 5 touchdowns. I don't know if you heard, but you guys have a pretty big matchup tonight. How are we feeling, Jam?
Fantastic. I'm excited to do the show. Excited to catch the Niners on DVR once we finish up here. A banged up, beaten 49ers, but we're going to persevere and hopefully put on a strong performance tonight, just like we'll do tonight.
That's right. That's right. If anything, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but if anything, we're going to perform like how the 49ers should perform. And if not, just forget I even said anything and that a Rams fan told you that. But we got a fun show lined up, Jam. We got a fun couple of weeks kind of lined up here on the pod. We might even open with that. But first, Jam, we got to take care of the housekeeping. So why don't we hit the folks with all the fun stuff that we have going on with No Ceilings?
Most definitely. The season isn't even quite in full gear yet. We still have so much going on so many different platforms. On NoCeilingsNBA.com, Maxwell has the No Stone sleeper cells that includes Yaxel Lendeborg and Ryan Conwell. Metcalf has a series of film schools, one from the UConn, Boston College scrimmage, LeBaron Philon's scrimmage, the exhibition, his dynamic performance there, and AJ Dybantsa's performance as well too. And then Steven, our very own, has his 5 off-season findings. And then as a group, our No Ceilings kickoff piece on the SEC conference preview. Then over on the Locked On NBA podcast, we have Rucker and Metcalf had a start bench cut pie and a reaction show to the new AP poll as we are right around the corner from the season. And Nathan Albert discussed the NBA top sophomores led by Reed Sheppard, who's in line for a major role with the Rockets looking to move forward the point guard position with the unfortunate injury of Fred VanVleet. And Albert and Corey had a pod scouts on Bennett, Stirtz, and Isaiah Evans. And finally, on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube and podcast feed, Rucker and Metcalf continue their 30 prospects in 30 days. A bunch of just terrific prospects they've covered, from Jayden Quaintance, Caleb Wilson, Yaxel, Thomas Hall. So it's a lot of great stuff going on. We always appreciate the support and the continued support, so check those out.
Yeah, if you've been under a rock, it's okay. One, how do you sleep at night? Literally, like under a rock, how do you sleep? But two, want to let you know that we have already kicked off with No Ceilings, and some people have even said, like, haven't you guys already been kicked off? The answer to that question would be yes, we have. Like, if anything, like No Ceilings, we don't sleep over here. We take a deep breath and then we dive right into the next cycle. But our official kickoff, like our yearly routine that we do, we started with our conference preview pieces, and we did the SEC where we all got to share who the best prospect is, who do we think is going to exceed expectations, who do we think might fall short, what are our favorite matchups for an SEC team or player, so on and so forth. So that has been a lot of fun. And then just to let y'all know, for the the Draft Sicko show that you're listening to right now with Jam and myself, we've covered 50, count them, 50 prospects on individual kind of deep dives within segments. Today we're going to step away from that. Today we're going to have a little bit more fun because we thought it would be good for all of you all fine people to know who are going to be the best players at a particular skill within this class. Before we dive into the names, though, Jam, I want to know what was your process, because we didn't put a lot of stipulations or rules on like how we came up with the names that we came up with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, kind of starting level set. For me, I kind of really combined my thought process was guys who undoubtedly right now have the best skills, then also trying to project forward. So really ultimately what I wanted to do at the end of the day, if we kind of go back in the time capsule from this show, I wanted to be at once we get at the end of the season, draft time, this is who I feel will be the best at such and such as we'll get to the different categories. So that's kind of the hope, is to project forward. It's the name of the game, projecting forward. And I do believe that we have a great list of guys who are going to fill these individual categories.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, and just to kind of let y'all know, because we're kind of experienced podcasters around here, the if you're in the best score, we're saving for last. So if you're watching live, we got you for the rest of the night. But if
Little
you're
tease.
the next day, you can navigate around podcasts however you navigate around. Like, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but while you're here, like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. Continue to help No Ceilings grow. And thank everybody. First off, Jam, like, I don't know if you saw what Rucker put in the group chat the other day, but our numbers from like how much we grown during like the quote unquote off season from like last year to this year, significant growth. So thank you all so much for making No
Thank you.
Ceilings a part of your day-to-day routine. Tell your friends. We want to keep getting this thing going here. But Jam, for myself, I got two players that I'm going to bring up for each segment. I'm bringing one who I think is going to be the best, right? Because if we're asking the question, who's going to be the best blank, I'm going to have an answer that you're going to have the player who most likely will be in that category throughout the entire year. But I also have a guy who I think is okay, who has the most realistic chance of being the best at this skill, who will also be drafted, right? So I'll have like
Yep.
an overall for college, mostly college, no international, I'm sorry, but an overall for college, and then a draft based answer. So without further ado, we're going to start with the first question, Jam, or the first skill. I'm going to ask you first, Jam. Who do you think is going to be the best athlete this year?
For me, with the best athlete, I kind of had. Are you familiar with Bruce Feldman's freak list? Well, let me college.
Oh,
Okay, I want to just make
yes.
sure I preface college football. I don't want to get anybody in trouble looking for freak lists out there online, but the
Yeah, don't
college
Google
football,
freak
yeah.
list. Please be careful. I don't know what's going to come up if you Google freak list.
Especially listen to this at work or anything like that. Don't want to get you in trouble. So college football freak list from Bruce Feldman, who just lists and kind of collects and describes just the different specimens starting in college football, the superb, supreme, top tier athletes, guys. You see like Nick Harbor, 6'5", from my area, who runs, with 4.4 speed at the tight end and wide receiver position. Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State star, sophomore now, receiver there,
Yep.
guys that made it as well too. And a guy
You probably
that,
heard about this list on like the Ryan Russillo show. I know
yes,
the fantasy football, Todd McShay talks about this list all the time. Like a bunch of Ringer and some new Barstool people talk about it a lot.
absolutely. Don't want to rip them off, but it would be a great idea to kind of see this.
Yeah.
Bruce Feldman goes to basketball and kind of do this, but that's neither here nor there. But
Patent
I
pending.
was
Jam is starting this new segment, the Jam's freak list. All right. Just nobody else do this in basketball. Jam's got it.
sponsored by Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. But before we get off the rails quickly
I
here,
was about to do it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
AJ Dybantsa, like I think it's an obvious one for me. 6'9", fluid mover. Like the way he moves at 6'9", those movement skills to stop and go with the ball in his hands, the ability to change directions. When he wants to be, he's a terror in the open floor with the
Hmm.
speed, with the ball in his hands, or if he's just running the floor as a play finisher. It kind of just glides up and down the court with the long, smooth steps. And for a guy at his size, a big wing like that, I don't want it to be taken for granted just how good of an athlete and a freakish mover and just the tools that he has at 6'9" that shows up on both ends of the floor. So for me, he was an easy choice. Was he someone that kind of stood out for you as well?
I didn't have him, so I didn't even do a short list. I was like, I broke it up, like I said, into 2 lanes, and I had my overall for college, and then I had my overall for draft. Now, the the first one, the reason I put best athlete first, Jim, is because there's so much like interpretation onto what do you believe athleticism to be? You know, do
Yes,
you believe
yes,
conditioning is part of athleticism or a sizable part? Because if so, Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic are great athletes, James Harden, because they play every
yep,
minute that they're out there for their teams, right? But if you
yep,
think that run jump athleticism is what you think about first, then you probably have those 2 a little bit lower
true.
on your list. Do you think about fluid hips? Do you think about deceleration? Then you're probably thinking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as a, prime athlete, right? So,
Yep.
I didn't know what you were gonna do, and just to kinda share with everybody,
Yeah.
Jam and I, we did share notes a little bit. We didn't share philosophy. I only told him a couple of names outright. He only told me a couple of names outright. We threw our list together, and before the show, we were able to kinda see what we were gonna be talking about. But throughout our process, we didn't share, like, what do you think of as athleticism? But
Mhm.
I went for more of the fun, like highlight really type athletes whenever I pick, Jam. So who do you want first? Do you want my overall for college, or do you want my draft guy first?
We'll go overall for college, and shout out to Dirty Dancer having me cracking up here about none of the hipster definition of athleticism. You're right.
Yeah, Dirty Dancer, while we're breaking this down, if you could throw out the hipster's dictionary version of athleticism, like that would be pretty cool. But I think I'm gonna hit him with a pretty baseline version of athleticism here. Overall for college, Jam, how could you have an athletic list for collegiate players and not have the Michigan State Spartan Coen Carr on
Oh,
your
you can't.
list?
You
You
cannot.
can't. It's impossible. I mean, anyone who's listened to me talk, we all have our own little vernaculars and stuff like that. We all have our own little ways that we think about things. Anyone who's heard me talk about freak athletes have heard me use the phrase helium legs before. And Cohen Carr is like the prime definition of having helium legs. Like it's harder for him to stay on the ground than it is for him to jump in the air. I think naturally, if we just let, elements take hold of the situation here, like Cohen Carr would be a Skywalker. Like he's perennial dunk contest participant, no matter if that's high school, no matter if that's a hype night for his own school, collegiate slam dunk competitions. Like Cohen Carr will be there. He's like Matt McClung, but in college now. I think 62 dunks on the year last year, Jam, and he's listed anywhere from like 6'4" to 6'5". I think I've even seen some 6'6". I'd highly doubt that, but
Yeah.
he's somewhere in that 6'4", 6'5". So like that Jason Richardson, shout out to folks who remember, Jay Rich whenever he would throw it down in dunk competitions, just made to be a dunk contest participant because he just looks so cool jumping in the air. 24 of those 62 dunks, Jam, came in the half court. So he's like a good in-game dunker when the defense is set. Timely cuts, uses his athleticism. That freakish athleticism is functional. It translates to the games. And then if you think about like what are the best ways to quantify athleticism and how it can be productive throughout a game, 4.1 block percentage last year, Jam, like for a guard, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
To go along with 47 stocks in general, right? So you're talking about a guy who's explosive, who's got great core strength, who can contort in the air. He's got good change of direction. He can, do all the run jump stuff that you want to, but he also has a keen like sense of coordination and timing that he has. So a melding of the body and the brain here, and a player who can just do so many fun things on the floor.
Yeah, he definitely can. Just the way he functionalizes athleticism on both ends of the floor. With him, just kind of looking ahead with the NBA outlook, it's going to revolve around that athleticism and his projectable frame, long arms, broad shoulders, some mature definition and muscle to his frame as well. But he's going to have to show that he can be a capable shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the obvious swing skill for him is. Like he is a career 33% shooter. That's great. And so you look at the volume, just 15 total attempts, and all of those came last year in his sophomore year. So hope he can take a step forward there, something in the low 30s, just with more volume. So we'll see how it goes with that. But I'm optimistic that he can find a role in the NBA if he can find that jumper, because I look at guys who are just all defense, especially you're a freak athlete like that. It's just going to be tough unless you find ways to, whether it's going to be with his ball skills, the jumper's not falling, to be able to capitalize, take up that space that teams are going to give him.
Yeah, he's got to either be able to shoot or make snappy decisions with the ball in
Yeah.
his hands. And I think that helps him out. But Jam, the guy who I had as like my draft guy, I think AJ Dybantsa is a good one. I don't think anyone will disagree with any opinion on AJ Dybantsa throughout the entire year. I think he's easily the most likable. And I can't keep going with that, Jam. We've already seen people are not going to have measured and fair, respectable conversations about AJ already through an exhibition game. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for that conversation to keep going. I'm going to steer away. I can't take the heat. I don't want to say anything good or bad about AJ Dybantsa. I'm going to pick a guy who I feel like everybody kind of likes, Tyrone Riley the fourth out of San Francisco. I just think that watching him last year at San Francisco, the reason that he was productive, I think he played a lot off of instincts, 35 dunks last year as a guard wing. We still don't really know what he's going to be. I think this year is going to kind of help illuminate what position he's going to be most successful at. 18, so almost half of his dunks came in the half court, Jam. I thought that was outstanding. So again, functional athleticism, 10 blocks last year as a guard, contributing to 50 or 50 stocks throughout the entire year. So a guy who's 6'6", kind of teetering around that like 200-pound range, putting a little bit more meat on the frame. I think that'll only help his explosiveness and his like strength, ability to do more powerful base things as opposed to just kind of greyhounding around out there, using his athleticism in a speedful manner. I think that if he can put a little bit more functional weight to his frame, then we can start seeing that more powerful based athleticism contributing to him being able to handle contact and finish through it, drawing fouls, getting to the free throw line and giving his team easy points, and then just being able to endure more of that like inside sustain interior sort of offensive production that he already showed great promise on last year.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. When I saw you listed him as one of the guys, I was surprised. Not that I don't think he's a good athlete, but when I think of the top of the scale, the tier one athletes in the class, I don't normally think about Tyrone Riley, at least right away. So that was a surprise for me. But I think the crucial things that you said is just how he functionalizes all of that and all of his tools. So I am, maybe there's something I missed possibly that I'm going to be looking for as we go through the season, whether if it's the strength component that I may be missing there from him and just other things. So I'm looking forward to see just how he shines athletically this year with another year in college.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's fun we just get to have these conversations. We can touch on a few different players. And like I mentioned right off the rip, athleticism is going to look a little bit different
Yep.
to whatever your kind of like preconceived notions as to what athleticism is. And we're getting some fun love here in the chat where it
Yeah.
says D Giota says, I always think
Appreciate
it's
y'all.
interesting when we talk about in NBA, we usually don't talk about how strong players are, even though it's crucial. D Giota, if you've been following Draft Sickos at all, you know that we preach strength and how important that it is. And
It's a
but
grown man's league.
it's a grown man's league, but D Giota, I don't think outside of and listen, I listen to everybody and I love everybody, okay? But I don't think that it's covered as in great depth as it could be kind of like across all platforms. So I would agree with you there. And then Grindhouse Spaces says, don't sleep on Thomas Houck's athleticism. I know it's more power than athleticism. So I would think that Grindhouse is saying like instead of run jump, it's a lot of strength. But
The
his
power's a part
defensive,
of athleticism. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you. But defensive athleticism is off the charts. I agree with you, Grindhouse. And thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Appreciate y'all. But Jam, you had one more name on the list? Is that more of a reserve, or do you want to bring them up?
Let's bring them up just real quick. I'm going to
Okay.
go the freshman route. again, and that's UNC freshman Caleb Williams. 6 foot, Caleb Wilson. I'm watching Georgetown scrimmage, got Caleb Williams on my mind. Caleb
Well,
Wilson.
the Bears too, the quarterback, right? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. All DMV guys.
There we
Caleb
go.
Wilson, 6'10", 215-pound freshman, plus length, explosive vertical athlete, so fluid. He's rangy. He's been able to show throughout the high school tape and early in the scrimmage his ability to be switchable, to get on the perimeter, to fluidly move, to contest shots, and just really to be a disruptor with his tools. So I really do like what he can be going forward, especially when you look at them on the NBA level, what he can do as a play finisher and a defensive playmaker just with his athleticism and tools alone. As he continues to find what his offensive role is going to be on the NBA level, I think just with his tools, he can make an impact.
I love it, man. And there's a number of different players that we could do here, right? And if you're in the chat and you're listening, there's anybody that you want to throw in as an honorable mention, just like y'all have been. Continue to do that. But Jim, let's move from skill 1 to skill 2. And again, we're saving shooting and scoring for last, so we really want y'all to hang out with us here on the Sunday evening. But Jam, skill base number 2, best playmaker. I don't think that the spectrum that you can analyze playmaking, I would say, is as wide as what you would say for athleticism. But I think people probably weigh things a little bit differently when you kind of put it all into a pot and you call it playmaking. So, Jam, what goes into your head is like what a playmaker actually is?
For me, it's a couple different things. You have just the pure kind of passing versatility, where it's off the bounce, stationary, pick and rolls, those type of things, short roll if it's a big man, all those type of things. The vision and feel, can someone map out the court, understand where guys are going to be, how the defense is going to react and everything. And also just the pure playmaking aspect, guys taking off people off the bounce, whether it's creating paint touches and skipping, just creating havoc, being able to draw different guys and just make a play for other people off the bounce. So I kind of really combine all that as my criteria when I look into the overall playmaking and passing component. Do you look at it in a similar way, or what was kind of your background to doing this?
Yeah, I just think that it comes down to however you kind of prioritize scoring or passing for a specific position, whatever your ratio is, right? Like that's to me is what playmaking is. You put the ball in someone's hand and you trust them to kind of be the processor, like the team's brain, the guy who's going to be the organizer, the setup guy. But also you can't just be one-dimensional as a playmaker, right? Like you have to be able to do everything. And in my opinion, the best playmakers not only can score and pass, but they can score and they can pass, but they can score at multiple levels as well, right? So you can't even necessarily be one-dimensional as a scorer either. And we're getting some great comments here in the chat. Dirty Dancer said Jayden Bradley has entered the chat as a dark horse. And D. Giota says, playmaking, I think it's just Braden for me. And no contest.
Can't go wrong.
Happy to learn more. Let's not bury the lead here, though, Jam. Do you mind if I go first with my college guy?
I was going to say, set it right up. Go ahead and set the table. Throw the hoop.
Yeah, one would say that D. Giota is the best playmaker right now because, I mean, you can't get a better transition for me to talk about the opening guy for me for college basketball. It's Braden Smith out of Purdue, right? He's not going to be the only Boilermaker that we're going to be talking about tonight either. So if you're a Boilermaker fan out there, this could be a fun night for you. But Braden, dude, last year, 44.1 assist percentage. Can we just moment of silence for 44.1 assist percentage? Like that's
ridiculous.
That's insane. And then he averaged almost 16 points per game and almost 9 assists with a turnover percentage of only 18.6, Jam. So you look at his ability just to not only just play make, but do it in a way that's both fun and functional. I think that there was an exhibition highlight that I saw of him where he did a behind the back pass to Oscar Cluff, the new big man, the transfer in. And it was just like seamless, just running along the top of the perimeter, just in motion, dump off behind his back. I can't get over how great of a playmaker Braden Smith is. He ranked in the 46th percentile in overall offense, which is okay, right? And he's got his limitations. I think he's like 5'10", maybe, like somewhere in that neighborhood.
You're not gonna go with the official Purdue measurement of 6 feet. You're not gonna go that route yet.
I mean, we could. You're right. We typically do like to go with the team listing. So he's a clean 6 foot, very clean. I would say, yeah, we'll leave it at that. So 6 foot on a good day. But if you include assists to his overall offensive rankings for our friends over at Synergy Jam, he ranked in the 96th percentile in total offense, including assists. So literally a 50 spot ranking difference between overall offense and including assists. It's just insane to me, the way that this guy can think and see the game.
Yeah, it really is. And there's little doubt in my mind that he can contribute on the NBA level.
That would be a good nickname for him too, by the way, Little Doubt.
It would be. As far as a facilitator and floor general, whether he's going to be a backup guard or if it's the third guard, but I do feel like when he gets on the NBA floor, a coach knows what to expect from him. Then, of course, as we hinted around, the size is a major
detractor.
Yeah, it is. I don't want to be too strong, but that's just really what is the size and the athleticism.
We got to keep it real, brother.
Absolutely. And, as good as a passer that he is, some passing windows aren't there because of his lack of size and height. But he pretty much can make any read that you really want him to do. He's going to be smart with the ball, smart decision maker. And for me, I think what potentially could separate him for someone as that small is the shooting. You had that steady playmaking, and then what he does as a shooter, I believe he's 39% career three-point shooter. So I think that's going to be a huge help to his overall case to kind of compensate for that overall lack of size and athleticism.
Yeah, and I failed to mention this in my stats that I had here, but he shot around 38% on deep on around 10 threes around 10 threes per 100 possessions, right? Mm-hmm. So he's getting the shots up there. But Jam, let's go with your guy. I think that people may have heard the first name that you have listed here, but for those who might not, let's go ahead and introduce him to the audience here.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little chalk, but I'm going to introduce the guy, Darren Peterson, in case you haven't heard of him. But this guy, obviously ticketed to be the first pick in the draft with Dybantsa, Michael Brown, and of course, Cam Boozer right there at the top. But Darren, the scoring goes without question. We know what he does, but the playmaking, the passing is really right there. He can play out the pockets. It skips. It's both hands. It's the navigation and the pick and roll to be able to find guys. Average 7.4 assists per game last season. And for someone that you want to be a lead guard that has this type of three-level scoring prowess, he takes on a major offensive load as a scorer, and the playmaking is arguably just as good. It's probably my favorite skill. I know the offensive, the shooting, the scoring, all that package gets the credit, but the playmaking is probably my favorite Darren Peterson skill.
I want to ask if you can go in a little bit more on the playmaking for me, Jam, because I've been listening to some podcasts, and when I say I listen to everybody, I genuinely try to. You can ask my family. I don't think they know what my ears look like because I feel like I'm always walking around the house with with my headphone on, one ear on, one ear off. But a lot of the criticism, if there are any criticisms on Darren Peterson at all, it's the kind of the fact that he has been dubbed the best point guard since. And it's not too long ago that Scoot Henderson was the best point guard prospect since. And Darren Peterson is into that role. And I've heard some speculation about the playmaking that we could see from Darren in a Bill Self offense. What about the passing has you kind of higher on him?
I will say I don't see him as a point guard. I don't think he's an ancillary guard. Well, a little more of a lead guard that can slide between that and the ancillary role or two on and off ball. So like the versatility there. But it's just his feel for the passing. Like you see him first, it's the way he can map out the court coming off of pick and rolls. We know it's a ball screen game, although we are getting to some more motion offenses. But his ability to be able to read defenses off the ball, whether if it's reading guys on the back end, whether it's the tagging guys, whether if it's him getting in the lane for drop off skips and things of that nature. I just think he has everything that you want tool wise and production wise early, whether it's going to be the flashy pass, the fundamental pass. It's going to be about continuing to find that balance of scoring and playmaking, as especially him being that lead guard, taking on, some of those a lot of the point guard responsibilities. But I think all the tools are really there. And the marriage of him being able to leverage his scoring into simple reads too. So it's just the simple reads, the combination of simple reads and the advanced reads.
And you use the word that I love when it comes to playmaking. It's leverage. And this is why I'm saying you have to be good at both passing and scoring. And then at the scoring, you have to be the best playmaker possible. You have to be lethal from multiple levels as well. So how do you leverage your rim pressure to create passing lanes as you're, steamrolling down the lane? Or how do you leverage the gravity that you attract as a shooter off the bounce outside to where you can have people cut and things like that? But Jam, Dirty Dancer has a follow-up question, then we'll go to my draft guy. But is he really a point guard, or is Kansas just empty? Or is Kansas just empty there? What do you think, Jam?
A little bit of both. I wouldn't be like, all right, this is going to be my point guard. But I say anytime that you're a lead guard and you have the ball in your hands, even which I think is a better playmaker and passer coming out, at least, I would say maybe overall, than Ant is, although Ant is grown. But anytime you are that lead guard, that primary option, you have to have playmaking responsibilities, whether you are the point guard or not. So that's kind of where I see him really operating as next to another point guard, but can slide and lead and facilitate and do all that stuff. And he'll get a chance to do it in Kansas. I know we see in the chat there's some doubts about what it could look like under Bill Self there, but he'll have all the opportunities to show what he can do.
He sure will. And our audience right now is showing what they can do. And now Dirty Dancer is setting me up. We got a couple of playmakers in the chat. Dirty Dancer says Stirtz is pretty fun there too. That's my draft guy, Dirty Dancer. Bennett Stirtz is my guy. Assist percentage of 34 last year with the Drake Bulldogs. Averaged over 19 points per game and 5.7 assists per game. Turnover percentage of just 13.1. Shot just under 40% from deep on almost 8 threes per 100 possessions. Ranked in the 91st percentile, Jam, in overall offense, just in scoring. And then if you look at including assists, the 96th percentile right there with Braden Smith. So a little bit bigger of a guy. We're listed around 6'4", around 200 pounds. I would like him to get a little bit stronger. You hear me say that about a lot of guys in college basketball. It's important. Going back to DiGiotto, you can't underestimate the prioritization that NBA teams put on strength. But Bennett Stirtz does a great job. You talked about leverage earlier, Jam. I mean, ball in his hand, ball on a string in his hand. He dribbles around 5 to 6 players per play, keeps the ball in his hand, lower turnover percentage than Braden Smith, man. And just makes the right reads, can throw the whip passes, can throw the wrap passes, can throw the I'm handling, attacking the basket, throwing it over the head hook pass to a rim running big man. And then you talk about the shooting. I mean, my goodness, there's a reason why this guy is drawing comparisons to Tyrese Halliburton, to LaMelo Ball. I feel like people want to burn me at a stake for mentioning him and Steph Curry's name together. Even at no ceilings.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
And I hear Corey brought up the free throw percentage. I don't believe in kayfabe here. Corey brought up the free throw percentage, and I get it, right? But I think it's not a shoot. It is what it is, right? I'm just keeping it real. But I just think that the parallels and storylines, right? Like, remember
Yeah,
Steph
yeah.
Curry coming out of Davison? It felt like a lot of conversation, pretty close, right? I'm not saying that he is Steph Curry, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of playing style, in terms of position that they play, and in terms of mid-major darlings like catching heat in March Madness, right? So there's some things kind of happening for Bennett Stirtz that I think that he is just one of the best playmakers that we're going to see drafted this year, Jam.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add, what you mentioned about Bennett Sturts. I mean, the size is 6'4", maybe 6'5". We'll see. The playmaking, the shooting, like he really has everything you're really looking for a long time contributing guard in the NBA. So I'm excited to see what he does, taking another step, leaving Drake, being able to show what he can do on a consistent basis in a Power Five school, Power Four these days school.
Yeah.
So
Rest in
I
peace,
would,
Pac-12. Yeah.
do you have any doubts of him being at Iowa that things won't quite translate, or just trusting kind of the size, skill, feel the whole playmaking package that we talked about?
I'm trusting him. I'm trusting that they got him, in my opinion, some real help with Alvaro Folgaris, and I'm trusting the
Yeah,
fact that everywhere that he's gone with his coach, he's been this good. You know what I mean? And he and his
yeah,
coach, they're a package deal, and they're both going to Iowa. I would have felt a lot better if they brought in Alvaro Folgaris and they kept Owen Freeman. I think that would have been really, really fun. But
yeah,
as it stands, I still think that they got some good talent, and Josh Dix. I think that they got some good talent, and I would just there's nothing that I see from him that has me worried other than just the strength component, but I also watch him play and seen him go up against like real teams in college basketball and just not be deterred by, overwhelming length and size. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm not concerned. I get that there are concerns, and I get that people want to see it, in the Big Ten night over night. But I just feel like we've seen enough just last year against real competition and him be one of the best performers in college basketball.
yeah. No doubt. I'm excited to see what he does this year.
No doubt. All right. So we're going to catch this break. And on the other side, we're going to be talking about who we think the best rebounders in this class are going to be. So just hang tight and we'll be right back. All right, we are back here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show. I'm Stephen Gillaspie with my co-host Jam Hines. We are the Draft Sickos, and we're talking about who we think are going to be the best players within this class at different skills. Jam, we are back like an offensive rebound. We are back here to talk about who we think the best rebounders are going to be. I'll let you open it up, man, because this guy is a lot of people have flown away from his island, but we've got a couple of holdouts. Who do you want to talk about as the best rebounder?
I'm going with Yax. That's Yaxel Lendeborg, the new man at Michigan. Just made his living as a versatile big man at UAB. Will continue to do it the same at Michigan. But over his past 2 years at UAB, 11 rebounds per game. He was a double-digit rebounder on the JUCO level at Arizona Western as well. Rebounds in and out of his area, at 6'9", and not just the fact that he's a volume rebounder is what I love, but the fact that he has the ball skills and the playmaking ability to go grab and go, create for himself and his teammates, and also the quick hit ahead passes. So anytime you can kind of compound rebounding with the ability to get out and transition as a finisher, as a playmaker, I absolutely love that. And Yaks, for him to be able to do that in and out of his area and as a big man, it's such a huge, huge weapon.
And I think too that he benefited a lot from the school that he played at because of his size. We got to see him play at multiple positions. The only concern that I have, my man, is that he's teammates now with Morez Johnson and Ade Mara, who I think has to duck his head to walk in the building. Do you think that we might see those numbers go down a little bit, or are you just thinking like positionally speaking, this is going to be one of the better rebounders in the class?
Maybe slightly, as you mentioned, Morris Johnson, just a relentless rebounder and an energy player, and Mar should see significant minutes and what he could potentially do with an increased load, conditioning, withholding, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to take a slight dip down. It may not be double digits, but for him to be 8, 9 rebounds per game, I fully expect for him to still be a volume rebounder.
All right, and I want to say shout out to Norin Rad in the chat. He's saying, "What's up, y'all? What's good there, Norin?" Dirty Dancer says Krivas was grabbing them all, probably just because Waka was out. And a Grindhouse, I'm sorry we're not gonna go in depth on your question, but how do y'all feel about Alex Condon as a hub playmaker? Not as good as some other bigs, but
Yeah.
he's solid, man. He's a good big man in a good rotation down there in Florida. And then he also mentions Ruben Chinyelu, the best offensive rebounder in the country, in my opinion. He's up there. But, Jam, I'm going to open up with who I think is going to be the best rebounder in all college basketball. I'm going with, I kind of alluded to this earlier, the new Purdue Boilermaker. We should have all seen this coming. Oscar Cluff is coming over to be Braden Smith's teammate. So looking for a lot of pick and rolls here, but any missed shots, I'm expecting Oscar Cluff to pick him up. He's listed at 6'11", 255 pounds. Last season, Jam, he had a defensive rebounding percentage of 32.2, which was first on Bartorvik over all of last season. Like no minute percentage restriction, anything like that. And then if you look at on the offensive rebound, he was fifth on Bartorvik with a 17.2 offensive rebound percentage. When you look at our friends over at Synergy, he was ranked in the 93rd percentile on putbacks, while his frequency ranked in the 73rd percentile. So spent a lot of time getting putbacks and a lot of time making the putbacks. So I'm just looking at size. I'm looking at power. I'm looking at the intuitive nature that he has. Like, what's that famous Dennis Rodman moment from The Last Dance where he's like, I see a ball bounce this way, I'm over here. I see it bounce over here, I'm over on this way. I think Cluff kind of has like that Dennis Rodman. I mean, very light. There's only one worm, but very light Dennis Rodman type tenacity when it comes to attacking the glass. What do you think about Cluff? Do you think that there's a shot that he could be something, or are you just expecting a good college player from him?
I'm just expecting a good college player from him, and I'm open and hoping to be wrong about that. There's more than that, especially when rebounding tends to translate at every level. So I think that can be a skill for him. It will just, from that point, it will just be about what else does he provide? Can he be a consistent play finisher? Can he hold up defensively?
I agree, man. But the draft guy that I want to bring up is a guy who I know that you're kind of in on as well. UConn's Tarris Reed, listed at 6'11", 265 pounds, so a little bit sturdier of a player here. Last year, he was in the 12th. He was 12th on Bartorvik last year in defensive rebounding percentage at 27.4. A lot of guys that were ranked above him have since left college basketball, and he was second. So he was better than Cluff. He was second on Bartorvik in offensive rebound percentage at 17.5%. So another player who utilizes his strength, his leverage. I think that he's good at positioning himself. He's so coordinated too, Jam. When you look at like the putback stuff where one hand tip ends, stuff like that. If he wants to go up in two-handed, bring it back down, you're not taking it away from his hands, and he'll rise right back up to throw it down over the top of you. I love Tarris. I think that this is a guy who is kind of probably flirting with like late first, early second round range kind of considerations coming into the year.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's a mountain of a young man at 6'11", 265 pounds, just a mature frame. And as you mentioned, powerful once he has the ball in his hands. You aren't really going to do anything to get it out of his grasp. So I do think that he's going to be a handful for guys this year.
And I know that we're not going to touch on unless you want to, Jam, because you had mentioned we'll kind of do it quickly with the first skill group. But you brought up Cam Boozer potentially being one of the better rebounders in this class. I want to dive into that because we've touched on two of the other big three. It feels like on social media that Cam is being left out of a lot of conversations already, as we kind of predicted. and foretold it. So let's give Cam his just due and some respect here on the show. Why do you think that he's capable of being one of the best rebounders in this class?
Oh, well, first, it just starts with production. Like, I mean, I feel like rebounding outside of, seeing the effort and things like that, rebounding, just pure numbers, 13.4 rebounds per game last year on the EYBL circuit. He's one of the rebounds in and out of his area. One thing I've already mentioned with Yax that I really value is that grab and go, that grab and go ability, excuse me. And then watch out for this with Cam as well. He is a terrific hit ahead passer. So if he
Yes.
gets the board and he sees you, it's out. It's
Kevin Love.
Yeah, exactly. I expect so many different outlet passes, finding guys up the floor and working that grab and go, him finding Isaiah Evans and other guys on the wing, Darren Harris getting it out to his brother Cade, and they can go to work. So I expect him to be able to get Duke out in transition in so many different ways once he has the rebound.
I love it. I love it. All right, so Jam, we see a couple people in here. There's some Ivicic brother kind of conversations going on. Dirty Dancer. I like Phylon as a wing rebounder. Low key
Great
kind of
call.
like that, despite
Yeah.
the slim frame here. So the chat's buzzing, man. I mean, anytime you see Dirty Dancer and Norstrad in the chat, you know it's going to be live. Shout out to everybody who's in here hanging out with us Sunday evening. But Jam, the fourth skill that we want to talk about is best on ball defender. Now, this is kind of hard to parse out because I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes we can talk about holistic defender, right? And I think that I feel like there were names that I could have put in this conversation, but I don't necessarily feel like they're in that like 99th percentile in this category. That I feel like there's a little bit of bleed over. And just to kind of put it out there, it's not secret. I think that if we're going to be talking about on ball defender, we're going to be talking about interior defenders as well. I just feel like for a lot of players, there's kind of like a lot of bleed over. So I really wanted to be super picky with who I put here. I might shout out an honorable mention that I could have put here on the draft side of it. But let's open with Jam. Do you mind if I go first? Because
Not at all. The floor is yours.
Okay. In true draft sicko nature, I'm going to shout out someone from VMI. I want to shout out a VMI prospect here who I actually had 195th on my board. Now that I know that sounds bad, but he was in the same vicinity, same tier as like Christian Anderson and Ade Mara, right? So that's how wide ranging that kind of tier went, right? So I really like this player. If he did anything on offense, I would feel even better. But AJ Clark out of VMI Jam, for those who aren't familiar, go look him up. He's super fun to watch. Listed at 6'4", 184 pounds. Jam last year, steal percentage of 4.9. It gets even better though. As a 6'4" guard, he had a block percentage of 5.8. And just to say, like, those numbers are insane. And I don't have like a perfect statistical thing that I can say other than like this is a good indicator to me of like how do you put your tools together and functionalize this on a court? Like how do you say, okay, those numbers are great, but what does that actually do to help your team? He had 89 stocks, Jam. Just pause there for a quick second. A 6'4" dude had 89 stocks.
Yeah.
But only 62 fouls committed. So you're talking about a guy who can force events, but who could also play fundamental defense. He guarded up and down the lineup again, probably because the conference that VMI plays in. I'm very well aware, right? And D Joda in the chat, he said 195th in your board, your true sicko behavior. D Joda, you have no idea. I have not yet begun to defile myself. Norm Rad asked, poor man's Marcus Smart. Like, I would say like economic crisis man's Marcus Smart is probably what I would say. Probably before a time of currency. But in all honesty, though, like AJ Clark is a super fun player. If you haven't watched him, I just think that all of college basketball, talking about defense, like this is a very wide spectrum, Jam, that I really wanted to narrow it down to just one dude.
Yeah, it really is an on ball. I like how you laid all that out, especially with AJ, and then just in general, kind of the methodology behind it. You're looking for these tools, the production, also projecting forward. And
Dirty Dancer in the chat says, gonna get arthritis scrolling down a board that long. Yeah, you're probably
those
right.
fingers out, man.
Yeah, 36 years old. I do little finger push-ups now to get my scroll strength in.
Yeah, I was so glad you got on your sicko mode. Wouldn't expect anything else with AJ Clark. And he was a guy that I actually got to see last year in person when BMI came to play GW. And then just the frame and the defense, as you mentioned, really stood out. We'll have to take a step offensively, but when you talk about just what he does on ball, the ability to guard up and down, and at least in that conference, and be formidable doing that, the length that he has, just the competitive nature. So there's a lot to like about him on ball.
Right on. So Jam, let's some people might have heard your guy. We'll talk about the name that you wanted to bring to the table. Go ahead and tell the people why Dame Sarr might be the best on ball defender this year.
Yeah, like he's going to be tasked what it looks like to start the season with taking on the primary offensive option of opposing teams. You know, he's a 6'8", 6'9", long wing. He can create defensive events at the point of attack and also in passing lanes as well too. Like the strength part that we always talk about, that's going to be a key issue. But I do like the maturing frame that he's already shown. He's played professionally already, kind of has that toughness, what to expect. So I really do like just the combination of the tools, the profile, and then the opportunity that he has. He's going to be thrust right into the spotlight, defending some of the top wings and potentially some of the top guards in the country.
I loved his film too, man, like from overseas. Because when you read that size, I don't care like how long or how little you've been doing this. I feel like when you look at certain numbers, you have certain like athletic kind of thresholds that you kind of already start preconceived like boxing a player in, right? When you look at position, measurements, production, you kind of already start formulating like the silhouette of what this player is going to look like. But then you turn on the film, and that's where you really see how good you are at kind of like, build a bearing a player in your head, so to speak. And man, just watching Dame play along the perimeter, he moves so fluidly that I was expecting like more power than finesse, but he is a flexible dude, man. Like I really enjoyed watching how versatile and fluid his hips were on perimeter defense. I think too, though, that he is versatile to where he can take on some interior defense depending on the matchup as well. But I think just like you said, with Duke, it's going to be interesting to see like what sort of perimeter assignments he picks up, depending on who they want to play. Like Isaiah Evans, I like him as a defender. I don't think that he is like going to be worthy of being mentioned in a conversation like this, let's say. Nicholas Haminia, I have him fourth on my board. I don't know if he's going to be worthy of being mentioned in a conversation like this as well. Dame plays, and he plays a sizable amount of time. This is where Duke needs him to butter his bread, so to speak, and be a reliable floor spacer. Jam, you remember earlier how I said that no one is ever going to overreact to AJ Dybantsa, like no matter what we say about him? You remember that part of the conversation?
I do.
Yeah, I'm going to put my words to the test here. Chat and audience out there. I have AJ Dybantsa as like my draft dude here. And I know that that boy good audience out there might be hyping me up. I know that the calculator crew out there might be, kind of like saying, how dare you? I don't know what people in a specific like demographic are going to say about AJ Dybantsa anymore. But I just think that a player who's listed at 6'9", there's no weight listed on the BYU website, unfortunately, but I'm seeing like 200 plus depending on the websites. So he's got the metrics, right, of a good player. What we saw in FIBA play was sort of disappointing on the offensive end, but we saw the defensive skill ramp up. And last year, a lot of people had a lot of different things to say about his senior season. He was mailing it in, not as good as his junior year, yada, yada, yada. Last year, Jam, in Utah, when he was mailing it in, he had 96 stocks. He had 64 steals. and 32 blocks with just 74 fouls committed. So, in my opinion, Jam, it's going to come down to how much does he want to be a defensive stopper? Does he want to be young Steven Jackson, or does he want to be young Tracy McGrady? You know what I mean? Like, which sort of player are you wanting to be on that side of the floor? I would say that BYU probably needs him to be more of a impactful defender throughout the course of the season, playing next to a guy like Richie Saunders and having Robert Wright III, who I think has already been hurt before the kickoff of the season, unfortunately. They're going to need a front court guy like AJ to be a lockdown defender. And I think that he has it in him. We've seen it. Like, I've just read some numbers that would convince you that he can. Do you think that he can do it, though, Jam? Do you think that he will?
I'm right there with you. And I'm not sure if he'll become a lockdown defender, although all the tools are there. I just think maybe, not to say he doesn't want to, but I think it's a combination of we just don't know yet if he really wants to be that great of a defender, and then also how he handles being a primary option on the collegiate level and what that looks like when he's doing that, and then also being asked to defend and like he would do on the NBA level. So I will say that to say that I do love what you said about him, and I completely agree. The tools and some of the production are right there for him to be the best on-ball defender in this class. Long, explosive, quick hands. Like when he matched up with top guys like Nate Ament, and then also Darren Peterson as well too, had some really great moments of one-on-one defense against those guys, getting stops, getting low in the stance, really wanting it, you know. And then with defense, it's easier for guys to lock in and be more engaged. That's more of a will and effort type of stuff. If you don't have the tools, then you're kind of SOL, as they say. And you're just going to have to do what you can. But for AJ, like, everything is there for him to be a plus defender. If that's more of a shutdown type of guy, if it's more of a defensive playmaker, he has everything that you need to be a plus defender. And the last thing I'll say about his defense is that we've seen guys like Ed Edwards, who has these tremendous physical tools and just a sicko type of competitor as well. Does AJ have that in him to be like, all right, I want to be this two-way force. I want to utilize these ridiculous physical tools that I have to really make an impact on that end and be this two-way monster and really get to that sky-high two-way upside that he has.
And it looks like our audience has more things to say about me having Kamini a fourth as opposed to having AJ Dybantsa in the on-ball defender category. So, I mean, at least AJ, at least it sounds like you have some more believers here than Nick Kamini does. I'll never give up, though, Nicholas. I just want you to know. All right, Jam, we're going to hit this last break, and then we're going to run through a few more best skills. We got to talk about interior defender. We promised the people we were going to talk about best shooter, and we'll round out with best score, but it's going to be on the other side of this break. Just hang tight. All right, we are back live here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel and your podcast player of choice. Jam, we have done a lot of work, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us. We have three more categories that we're going to run through. The chat has been awesome. All of our audience, we love you all. But Jam, we're going to be talking about the best interior defender. I'm kind of cheating because I picked one who was overall in college, but there's also some draft consideration with him. And then I got a guy who people are probably going to be used to seeing on their way too early big boards coming into the year. But I want you to kick off this next one, Jam, because you picked a very intriguing player to be the best interior defender, because I think that if you're going to build an interior defender in your mind, it's probably not going to look like your guy. Go ahead and open us up here, brother.
Man, I'm calling out to the Goon Squad. I'm going with Magoon Squad out of San Diego State. The 7'1" big man. Like, he was just a dominant rim protector and rim deterrent all last year, anchoring the way for San Diego State. 2.6 blocks per game. That was seventh in the country last season. 14.5 block percentage was second in the NCAA last year as well. Just a combination of size, mobility, and timing that he brings as a shot blocker, both on and off the ball, and just roaming and protecting that paint. It's certainly a standout skill and just something that he can rely upon, really on the collegiate level and the NBA level, and kind of having that, you know, stretch five, the shot blocking, stretch big role that he seems to be ticketed to. But it all starts with him on the defensive end, and I think he has everything it takes to be an impact defender on the NBA level.
I entertained Magoon here, Jam, and I'm gonna just go ahead and kick a concern to you, and maybe we can dive into this if you want to, but I just can't get there with the weightlifting, dude. Like I get the numbers and I get the production, but like having a guy who is like over 7 feet tall but weighs just around 200 pounds. I think we got an updated listing. I forgot what it was. Forgive me. I think it's like 215 or something like that, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. But from what I understand, San Diego State is trying to do their best Kentucky impression in terms of weight gain this offseason. But I just worry, dude. Like, I get that for college, he's probably going to be good, but we're also talking about an NBA prospect, like a legit
Yeah.
NBA prospect with Magoon here. So, how do you think he translates at the next level, like specifically as a defender?
I think a lot of it's going to be drop. There are some really fun and enticing movement skills. I think they will be tested and switched, but ultimately it will be a drop using that mobility, the length, the recovery tools to be able to control the paint and play both the ball and the screener, the roller as well. So I think that's what's going to primary way he's going to be utilized as a defender. We'll see just how versatile he can be. And then really as a roamer, I think he speak to that strength piece. I think it'll probably be more of what he's doing at San Diego State, or at least last year. We'll see what they do this year. But him playing at the four with the more of a sturdy five or more rugged physical five. And he's just really excelled at just lurking, having someone of his size and his stature just being a menacing presence every time you're driving to the rim, looking to finish there and around the rim. And that's I think that's really what they're going to be utilizing and try to get them out on the perimeter, being able to, like I said, be that roamer, that free safety, if you will, for the defense.
I love it. Again, I entertained him because his metrics are insane, and he's got
Yeah.
incredible size, very fluid. I like his recovery stuff. I I have a hard time with the size, dude. Like that's what it just boils down to. But Jam, let's open up with my college guy first, just overall in college, who I mentioned kind of like towards the top that he's got some real draft considerations. I kind of soured on his draft projections, but there's no denying that, Joseph JoJo Tugler for Houston is one of the
Yeah.
best interior defenders in college basketball. I mean, he's kind of a small ball five already in college. He doesn't really play a lot of four. He's about 6'8" is what he's listed as, 230 pounds. He was in the 74th percentile, according to our friends over at Synergy, defending layups. He had a defensive box plus minus of 6.7 on Bartorvik Jam. That ranked first overall in college basketball amongst all players, first overall in defensive blocks plus minus. It's insane. He had a block percentage of 12.4, which was seventh on Bartorvik overall, and a defensive rebound, which I think that you should bake. We didn't talk about this, but if you're talking about best interior defender, I think being able to close out a possession is just as vital. And a defensive
Yes.
percentage for a guy who is his size of 14.5, I think is pretty impressive. He had 115 stocks. Included in that number was 77 blocks. Jam at 6'8". It's ridiculous. 221 fouls committed as an undersized big. I feel like that caveat, the fact that he is like routinely oversized in almost every matchup that he plays against, the fact that he's only 6 stocks from being away from being net neutral in terms of stock defense created or created 2 fouls committed. I think it speaks pretty good to his skill, his processing, and just physical tools, man.
No, it really, really does, and I I think that's a great pick for you, and I'm really looking forward to see what he can do defensively, and maybe we'll see if it takes a step forward offensively. That's kinda what the the
He's got to
holdup
do
is on
something
the
on
NBA
offense.
level. Yeah, I like the length comes into play as a play finisher too, so you certainly like that as well, but it just has to be a little bit more, but defensively, it's really all there, but when you're that defensively tilted, it's just very, very tough.
Specifically at that size, which is why
Yeah,
I don't have him in the drafted category, but I felt really good about including him as my college guy. But I have
yeah,
Jayden Quaintance as my draft guy, JQ playing at
yes.
Kentucky this year, listed at 6'10" and a half, the most specific measurement you will find. 255 pounds. So a guy who's packed on reportedly a lot of weight. 92nd percentile defending post-ups last year, Jam. 99th percentile defending hook shots, so a very specific type of shot that he was used to defending. He ranked very well. 85th percentile defending layups. He had a defensive block box plus minus of 4.2, which tied for 39th. That says like a 17-year-old freshman, like
Yeah.
playing D1 college basketball. He was a top 40 defensive box plus minus. Speaking back to the defensive rebound percentage and why I feel like, being able to close out possessions is an important part of being a good interior defender. Defensive rebound percentage of 18.4. And then, Jam, if you remember why I said, JoJo Tugler, like being an undersized big, 115 stocks to 121 fouls committed, that's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Jayden Quaintance had as many blocks as he had fouls committed, not stocks, blocks, with
Such a
62 blocks.
monster.
Yeah, 62 blocks to 62 fouls committed. You include steals, he went up to 89 stocks, right? So that's just the number. That's the geek. The freaks in the sheets love that stat line right there, right? But when you talk about the film dive, there's not very many players that have like the quick twitch athleticism. I know he's coming off of a leg injury and he's put on weight on top of coming off of a leg injury. So you kind of wonder how that kind of sifts itself out, so to speak. But you look at nuclear athleticism, and I heavily consider JQ as like one of the best athletes earlier, but he's just not as like highlight really. So I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Shoot me, I don't care. But I think that JQ has such crazy, like quick twitch, explosive, just power, raw athleticism at his young. It's still going to be one of the youngest players in this class. He's my guy for the draft in terms of interior defender.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Just an absolute menace of a defender. What he does just with his feel, the quick hands, the motor, long arms. Like it's just so much to like about the tools and the way he leverages that into production. And his defense is, for me at least, the main reason why he is in these top 5 to 10 type of conversations. Top five is a little rich for me, but he is in those conversations.
Yep.
But I think he's well on his way to, at worst, looks like being a lottery pick, and it's going to lean because of that defense.
All right, so Jam, I'm going to ask you to talk about your second guy on this category and the last one because I think these are good names to talk about with our audience. We mentioned Cam Boozer as a rebounder, and kind of going back to what I was saying, like part of being a good interior defender, my opinion is being a good rebounder. And it sounds like it's part of yours too, because you have Cam listed as rebounder and best interior defender. What goes into your analysis of why Cam is going to be one of the better interior defenders as a very young prospect at Duke this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I listed at 6'9", I believe, and 250 pounds. So just the strength, the power that he brings, being able to hold his positions in the post, won't really be moved too much. And I think that'll help him, especially on a college level when he's going to play the five. I don't think he has too much problem with that. But if he does play some small ball five on the NBA level, that will help him out. I think he's more of a four, but when he slides and be able to play with it's more guys that are looking to post at the five or the four, where the situation is, he's going to be able to hold his own. He's not going to be moved. He's a good shot blocker both on the ball and show some stuff as a weak side. May not be a true kind of rim protector and shot blocker, but he's certainly capable. And then if we mentioned the rebounding, like you have to be able to in possessions. And so just the tools and the production he has as a shot blocker and a rebounder, I think there's just so much to like about what he can do as an interior defender.
I love it. I love it. All right, so Jam, we're gonna hit our next question. We've got 2 questions left. Those of you who have been hanging out with us, you're getting rewarded now because everyone loves shooting. Everyone loves the deep ball. We're gonna be diving into the next question, Jam, and I put a poll up on YouTube that I listed 4 shooters who who do you think are going to be the best shooters in this cycle? The guy that you brought to the table, like, not only won, but like ran away with it. I think last I look at it, he was at like 73% of the votes went to your guy. So tell us why Isaiah Evans is the guy who you picked for best shooter in the class.
My guy, the Human Torch.
Yes.
He is the epitome of shooters mentality, shooters confidence. If there was a picture of anybody outside of Steph Curry, that he's in a totally different, stratosphere.
Obvious
But
reasons.
yeah, in a collegiate level. But like, there's not a shot that he doesn't feel like he can hit. There's not a shot that he will not take, and he will not be deterred by any misses. And the production is all there. It's not like he's shooting 34, 35%. This is a guy that last year, at 6'6", shot 41% from three on 4.1 threes, 3-point attempts per game. A tough shot maker. There's movement there with the versatility. Like, he can fire off of pin downs. You can work elevators, relocation stuff, transition. Of course, the standstill, spot up stuff. All that is there, and you certainly have to respect him, not just for his ability to be able to hit shots at a high clip and at a high rate, but just how hot he can get. He hits one, he's gonna hit another, and he can just start to really snowball and just pile on and really bury teams, with his shooting and the spark that he can bring as a shooter. He shot 42.9% on catch and shoot threes, 100. That's 126 of those. 36 point. Yeah, it's crazy. 36.4% on 66 guarded catch and shoot threes. And I dare you to leave Isaiah Evans open, because he shot 50% on unguarded catch and shoot threes, and those are on 60 attempts. So he has everything you really want in a shooter, and it's just going to be bombs away all season long when he be able to take a step forward with an increased role and being really having a guy like Cam Boozer who's going to open up. They're going to open the floor for each other, honestly. So I'm really excited to see how they continue to work together as they showed in the early scrimmages and practice and things of that nature. But I love Isaiah Evans. I have him as a lottery pick going into the year.
I know that you're not the only one at No Ceilings that love him. Corey and Albert, just on the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings, one of their more recent breakdowns was on Isaiah Evans. And they talked about not only do they love him as a shooter, but Corey and Albert like him in his defensive promise as well. Jam, when I told you earlier that we have the best facilitators in the group chat,
I'm looking. They're reading your notes. What's happening?
My guy, Grindhouse Spaces. I haven't seen Grindhouse on here very much, and that's probably a thing on my end. But Grindhouse, man, thanks for setting me up, because for my college guy, who I am slated to see this year whenever Belmont goes and plays College of Charleston, because there's some few Draft Sicko favorites in that matchup that I want to see, and one of them is Tyler Lundblade. You could read just like the shooting splits if you want, right? I'm not going to do that, because we're talking about the creme de la creme of the shooters. Yes. Like, I'm not just going in Grindhouse Spaces. First time in chat, long time fan though. Thank you so much, man. Like, you are very much so a welcome addition to the family here, and shout out to the rest of the No Ceilings universe out there. Tyler Lundblade, are you ready for this, Jam? Because this is going to be fun. All right. Tyler Lundblade ranked in the 99th percentile on spot ups. He shot 50.7% on 69 threes on spot ups. Wow. 90th percentile on handoffs, where he shot 43.1% on 51 threes attempted on handoffs. The 99th percentile again when shooting off of screens, where he shot 58.3% on 48 threes attempted. 97th percentile on guarded three-point jumpers, where he shot 46%. Jam, check this out. 113 guarded threes attempted. He was in the 96th percentile on dribble jumpers, so showing you a little bit of coordination here. Shot 41.4% on 29 threes off of the bounce. Oh, and in transition, Jam, he shot over 38% on transition threes. So Tyler Lundblade, listen, I dove in his film. I want so badly for him to be in it. And maybe he takes the Kobe Brea route, which Kobe really
pretty good size.
Yeah, Kobe really only shot like you could get like really like if you squint, you can see certain things. Like Kobe was just a flamethrower, right? And that's where he found himself in the draft. I think Lundblade might have a Kobe Brea type ability, but Brea benefited playing for Big Blue, man. He played for Kentucky. Lundblade opted to return to Belmont. He could transfer up or out or whatever the case may be after this season, but he's back with the Bruins, so he's going to have the mid-major stigma that's almost always associated with a player like him. But dude, Lundblade, the flame. What's higher than the Human Torch? Is it the Flash? Do you want to call Lundblade the Flash here, Jam?
but the way he's not afraid to get the ball off quickly, like he certainly could be the Flash. My God.
Yes, Ben Shepherd, also a Belmont Bruins. Yeah, but super senior. Yes, I agree with you. And a no stone unturned, like true gem from Maxwell Baumbach. Yeah, so shout out to
like
Ben
a Portsmouth
Shepherd.
guy.
Yep, dude. And you and I were going to be there for the Draft Sicko Bowl. That's what we do.
Yes,
But my Jam, my draft guy, my sweet, sweet prince, to quote Tyler Metcalf, my knight in shining armor, Braylon Mullins, the guy who on our way too early big board Jam, you might remember when we started hitting like the 10 range, I was like, what about Braylon Mullins? And I said his name over and over and over again. Now we got a little bit of a momentum on the Braylon Mullins train. He is my best draft guy, to where I think that if you want to talk about a dude who you look at what Reed Shepherd was able to do in his 1 year at Kentucky, you look at what Con Knipple was able to do in his 1 year at Duke. I think with UConn, Braylon Mullins is going to be able to be that sort of a player, and NBA teams have drafted that player in the top 5 over the past 2 seasons. I don't think Braylon Mullins is going to be a top 5 pick. I won't rule it out. I have him 6th on my board, though, to kick off the year. Mm-hmm. In high school, Jam, with Indy Elite on Synergy, he ranked in the 65th percentile on spot ups, where he shot almost 36% on 53 threes attempted. He was in the 96th percentile on handoffs, where he shot 50% on 20 attempted threes in handoff situations. He was in the 77th percentile on off-screen plays, where he shot 40% on 30 threes attempted. He was in the 65th percentile on guarded jumpers, where he shot 35% on 80 threes attempted. And he was in the 93rd percentile on dribble jumpers, where he shot over 48% on 29 threes attempted. Oh, and in transition, Jam, he shot 51% on his threes in transition. So I know that you are also a fellow Braylon Mullins supporter. Do you think that he's like going to be the best, like the intersection of like highest picked and best shooter prospect in this class?
I think it's going to be right up there. I think the person that is going to challenge him the most for that is going to be Michael Brown. I'm a big fan of Michael Brown's combination of shooting and shot making.
Norm Rad in the chat agrees with you. Yep.
Love it. And Norm, I gotta ask, is that a Silver Surfer reference? I just had to ask that because the name, but maybe it's the actual name. I don't know, but maybe let us know in the chat. But absolutely, Braylon Mullins, such a terrific shooter, as you already laid out. You were on him early. There it is the reference. But yeah, you were on him early when we had our deep dive on him, our conversations on him on the pod earlier. Like, I really, really enjoyed the film. We joked about you have to guard him as soon as he gets off the bus. Like, he's that type of shooter, that type of confidence. And I think he's going to the Big East and the draft cycle by storm.
All right, Jam, we have arrived to the last conversation that we're going to have. We're going to talk about all 4 names that we had here.
Can I slide one more name in this real quick, very quick,
please.
with the best shooters? I just want to give a shout out to Darren Harris. I know the numbers last year, very small sample size, 22.7% on 22 3-point attempts last year. Really throwing it out, not really worried about that. But Darren is a known marksman for so many years on a high school level. I saw him quite a bit here in the area, Paula Six, and on the grassroots level with Team Takeover as well. Just a tremendous shooter, high release, understands how to navigate screens. The shot, the prep, the form is just perfect every single time and repeatable. It does not change if you're shooting off a movement, stand still, whatever the case is. No, he can shoot no dips. We saw him come and open the scrimmage, coming curling, hitting the pull-up jumper, the no dip corner 3. So I just really love the type of player that he is, type of shooter that he is. I know it's high type of marks, but they're very, and I'm just not going with aesthetic light skin bias, but there are very much Klay.
It matters to some people.
It's very much Klay Thompson type of vibes with him. I believe it should get a good chance to play a ton, even if it's off the bench, it looks like, at Duke, but to be a really key contributor for them. And I have him as a late first rounder coming into the season.
I love that, man. There's a lot of Darren Harris believers at No Ceilings. I'm not saying that I'm a non-believer or an unbeliever. I'm just not a true believer if we're going to keep the Marvel conversation going along here. But I would love to see him kind of ramp up this year with a little bit more opportunity. Maybe that's a loaded squad, dude. That's a very loaded squad. All right, so Jam, we're going to talk about the best scoring prospects now, and we're going to lock in with 4 names here. I would say 3 of these are realistic to be drafted this year. My overall college guy, probably not. I want to start with him. Let's just get the oddball out of here. Jam, I went with Nick Martinelli. There's something about Northwestern that I was a huge Brooke Barnheiser guy. They got my guy Max Green from High Point. Nick Martinelli last year, I think there's going to be a preconceived notion, like when someone looks at him in a uniform, they're going to think he's one type of a scorer when he's absolutely not. He averaged 20.5 points per game last season. That was top 10 in all of college basketball, but that was first in the Big Ten. He had 5 play types where he averaged at least 10% of his total shots. All right, so he ranked below average in one where for some reason he was used as a roll man. That's going to be completely not his type, like screen and roll type guy, probably not his thing. The next lowest graded kind of scoring category that Synergy has him ranked in, 10% or more of his shots came from spot ups. And again, like, people are going to see a white dude that strangely isn't a good shooter. Like, that's just not Nick Martinelli. I think he was like a 33.3% 3-point shooter, right? But he is improving. He then ranked good or better in 4 other play types where he did average over 10% of his total shot diets come from. So we're talking about a guy who like scored a lot, but his shot diet came from a bunch of different areas in the court. And for the most part, he was pretty good at all of them. But like, it makes sense that he's not going to be a good roll man. Like, that's just not the type of player that he is. But he was average or better at 4 other categories. So that's pretty impressive, man. And then if you consider too, like, roster construct, like Brooke Barnheiser and Jalen Leach are gone. They were first and third, respectively, in usage rate on that team. So Nick Martinelli is a returning top 10 scorer on a team where it's going to be a lot of new people. Like, some of the returners were freshmen last year who are going to be asked to step up and have a larger role thrust upon them. Not to mention I talked about Max Green essentially, transferring from High Point to Northwestern. There might be like a speed of the game acclimation period that he has to get, but he's a good ball handler and shooter as well. I just think that with him being the clear-cut returner on the team, and he was already a top 10 scorer last year, I just think that he's probably, in my opinion, going to be the best scoring prospect based on the names that we have available to us.
Yeah, especially out of the returns. I think that's a very underrated name. I'm right there with Norton. There was a surprise for me too that he was one. But how can you deny someone that
College
is
prospect, not draft.
college?
Okay,
Yes,
just put
yeah.
yeah.
That's a good clarity, right? Good, brings the clarity there. But I just love the fact that he's just been so productive and has taken the leap forward, going up from 26 minutes 2 years ago to 37. And not only doing that, like he's never playing the whole game, showing the conditioning and the ability to be able to be a scorer. My thing when I look at the NBA level, the 33.3% from three, how does that really play out the next level? Is that good enough for him to be able to be a consistent floor spacer? Because I'm not quite sure if the on-ball equity is going to be there for him at least right away to be able to kind of do what he does best and kind of show more of that shot making and kind of get his without being a true floor spacer and spot up threat.
The good news is we got a little bit more time for him to improve as a shooter. Maybe this is the year where we
Yep.
see an even greater production in the shooting, where last year he was at 33.3%, which was a stark climb from where he was the year before. Maybe we continue to see some upward trajectory. I'm not really necessarily betting on it, which is why I have him clearly as a college guy, not a pro. But Jim, I mean, the guy that you have listed here is your first guy. Like, let's not bury the lead. Like, Darren Peterson could be the best scoring prospect in all of college basketball this year.
Yeah, I just feel like this was a must. I know we're going to look at some other guys and give them some love too. But I felt like it'd be malpractice if we did not have Darren Peterson here. But just appears to be just a complete scorer, the most ready scorer to come into the league out of this class. Can score on multiple levels, 3 level score, the pull-up game. This is a smoothness to his game, a poise to his game. Like it's almost just unbelievable for him to be this skilled, to be that poised, the projectable frame. Like I will be highly shocked. I don't want to give too much away because I know we're going to do our take votes, but I would be highly shocked if he is not the best scorer in this class, and he is not the one who has the most potential and upside to one day lead the NBA in scoring out of this class.
I love it, man. I mean, there's just so much to Darren Peterson's game to where I think that I was listening to the guys, both the Tylers and Corey. I believe it was on the ground floor, the collaboration with No Ceilings that the
Mm-hmm.
Field of 68 is doing with our team here. They were talking about like one burning question for each player. And I think Corey and Metcalf both were like, I don't have a question. It's like, what am I worried about with him? And then
Next.
they essentially made Rucker pick a question, and they were like, he hates Darren Peterson because he has like one question on this player. But yeah, man, I mean, it's like the fact that he's as tall as he is, and we're having already these questions before he's even stepped foot on a college, basketball court. Um, it's like, is he a guard? Is he a wing? I think that you could already look at him in either one of those positions. Speaks to the versatility that he brings to the table as both a scorer and a passer, right? So I think that it was apt that you brought him up here and during the best playmaker. And the Norman Rad said PJ Haggerty has to be up here for scoring too. I entertained Haggerty, but the shot versatility wasn't as vast for him as it was for Nick Martinelli, in my opinion. But I definitely, like, he was a name that I entertained there for sure. Like, him being on a list would not upset me for this category at all. But a quality name to bring up as an honorable mention. Jam, I feel like we've talked about this guy enough already. I'm going to bring him up again, though. AJ Dybantsa. There's a reason why I didn't bring him up in Best Playmaker, because I have questions when it comes to the passing aspect of his game. But as a scorer, I mean, come on. Like, AJ Dybantsa is so fluid. He ranked in the 89th percentile in his senior season with Utah Prep, again, where he apparently took his foot off the gas. He only ranked in the 89th percentile in total offense. He ranked in the 87th percentile in ISO, and he also shot around 37% on his three-pointers in isolation too. So bringing up like the, Steven Jackson or Tracy McGrady comparisons that he's probably going to get throughout the year. My man is just like long, lanky, fluid, has a sick handle. But kind of the big question that we have, and we've already seen like on Film School or any sort of social media at all talking about AJ Dybantsa, is that he needs the most work in his ability to get teammates open and find them, because he ranked in the 58th percentile as a scorer in pick and rolls. And in my opinion, it's because he's kind of one dimensional. Like, he's attacking the basket, right? Still, though, while I think he has work to do as a passer, he does well in ISO. He ranked in the 73rd percentile in spot ups, and he has the size to also take players down to the block too. So he's versatile, inside outside guy. I like the handle a lot. I think that he can score at all three levels, which grindhouse spaces is why I don't have Nate Ament, because look, he's 6'10". He can shoot. He can drive, but when he feels a little bit of a resistance, he is going to pull up a mid-range guy. He's not, from my personal opinion, my own takes, he's not like assertive enough as a scorer right now, but hopefully that changes with Coach Barnes at Tennessee. That's why I didn't have him here. Jam, I want to turn it over to you, though. We talked about AJ a lot already. Let's talk about your last guy, a dude who you and I both love. We talked about him in the Best Freshman's preview show. And if you want to listen to a bigger, deeper dive on Shon Abaev, we have it in our freshman preview pods. I think he's either part 1 or 2. You can look in the description, find it, whatever. Shon Abaev, the Cincinnati Bearcat, has already made his rounds on some highlight reels, Jam, and some exhibition games. So I love that you brought him up for this segment. Talk to us a little bit about Shon Abaev.
Yeah, Shon Abaev, a guy that you said you and I both really love. I have him, I think either 6 or 7. I think 7 coming into the year.
Yeah, I have
but
him 8.
Just right there, easy top 10 guy. One of the guys who, when you look for someone to be a potential number 1 primary scoring option, Abaev has all the tools. Listed at 6'8", it's a big wing. Crafty lefty, very comfortable getting to his space, getting to his spots and creating space off the bounce. Whereas the pull up, the sidestep, the step back, I guess because some of the lefty appeal, you kind of see some of the James Harden type vibes as far as what he has. What he has as a scorer and the scoring confidence. And then, this is best score, but I do want to throw out some of the playmaking flashes that he had there.
Absolutely.
That are very, very key, to pair with his scoring upside. But he can get downhill, the pull-up game, score on multiple levels. The athleticism to finish at and around the rim, above the rim as well, too, as we saw in the mean poster dunk that he had during the exhibition game against Michigan.
Flex on him a little bit, stare down a little bit, let him know a little bit.
Absolutely. Just such a fun score with a ton of confidence, who will have the keys at Cincinnati to grow, make mistakes, maybe shoot himself shoot them out of games. We'll see if that does happen. But he will have the chance to be able to balance the scoring and the passing and just become more of a lead guard and a floor general there. So I'm excited about what he does have in front of him. And, early returns, as we talked about in the exhibition game against Michigan, 15 points to lead the way for Cincinnati. So I expect a lot more games where he's leading them in scoring, and he should be shaping up to be Cincinnati's leading scorer this season.
I love the inclusion of Shon Abaev on this conversation. I would love for him to be someday to play well enough to be on like the best perimeter defender or on ball defender. Like he would just be unfair at that point. But dude, I'm a sucker for like these jumbo creators, like these anywhere from like 6'5" to 6'8" dudes with fluidity, handle, innate feel, pressure the rim, has gravity as a shooter. I'm not afraid. Well, you know what? Because I'm as good a podcaster as I am, I'm gonna save this for next week, Jam, and
There we go.
we can close out the show. So Jam, we did it, dude. We went through 7 best skills. I didn't count how many players that we talked about here on the show, but somewhere between 3 to 4 prospects per. So you're talking what, like somewhere between 21 to 28.
Wow.
Well, we talked about some of them multiple times. Anyway, we talked about a number of players. But as we get off here, dude, and I want to just shout out everybody for hanging out with us throughout the off
Thank
season.
you.
Jam, what do you kind of have cooking behind the scenes? I haven't even asked you, so I'm going to learn this at the same time of the audience. What do you got going on behind the scenes, brother, for No Ceilings?
Well, right now I'm cooking up. It's essentially how I see the game positionally, kind of breaking that down. A lot of the semantics and similarities and overlaps in the way we talk about positions and how I see it. So kind of break that down into those positions and what I'm looking for. And then also it looks like I'm waiting for confirmation, but I should be at a exhibition game this weekend. I won't reveal just which one it is just yet. You have to
Okay.
check us out on either on the No Ceilings feed or my feed over on Twitter. But we'll be revealing that later in the week. But excited to officially get the scouting season started by going to the exhibition game this weekend.
I love it, man. You got to keep us updated. Just shoot me a text because I'm learning that at the same time as the audience too. This is great. As for myself, I'm working on my first like prospect of the 2026 draft class cycle. I'll kind of spoil it a little bit. I'm writing about Braylon Mullins. You probably heard me get a little bit of passionate about him today as the best shooter.
Yep.
I've already pretty much done all the work that I need to. Seeing if I can get some more inside information for that piece, but I'm excited to do that. And then Jam over at NoCeilingsNBA.com. I don't know if people know this or not, but we are back, man. Like the cycle is kicked off for No Ceilings, and we've already opened up with our SEC preview last week. Let's give the folks a nice little breakdown here on Monday. Which is tomorrow for the live audience. If you're listening the next morning, I get it. I understand. Come hang out with us on Sunday. But on Monday, we're kicking off with our Big East preview. On Tuesday, will be a Big 12 Tuesday. On Wednesday, will be a Big 10 preview. ACC will be on Thursday. And then on Fridays is where we get freaky because we're talking about our mid-major prospects and teams previews. And then over on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel and podcast feed this upcoming Friday, the Tylers will be doing their own independent ops on the ACC and Jam. Our next 2 shows, I want to go ahead and reveal because this is a fun slate.
Let's
right?
do it,
So next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel, we are doing our Take Vault show. For those who remember last year, Maxwell and I called it our draft takes that we're afraid to say out loud show. And Jam, I think this will be fun if we kick off before the season. We do this Take Vault. We revisit it, like say halfway through the season, and then before the draft, before these players are all drafted to their teams, we can have our one last ditch effort to say things that we're afraid to say out loud. And then that following Sunday evening will be our opening week preview because that airs on November the 3rd, which is the kickoff to college basketball, which is effectively the start of the draft cycle. So, Jam, next couple of weeks, a couple of fun shows, brother.
Man, like bodies start to tingle, start to shake. We're good. We were right there. This is going to be such
Grindhouse
a
Spaces
cycle.
is joining us in the chat now. Yeah, thanks, Grindhouse. Thanks for hanging out.
And we just appreciate everybody in the chat, all the listeners, all the support that makes this whole draft community go around. So we really appreciate you.
We 100% do. But that's going to do it for us today here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel and podcast feed. For my esteemed co-host, Jam Hines, for myself and the rest of the No Ceilings team, this has been the Draft Sickos, and we will catch up to y'all next time. Much love, y'all.